Given the international presence, and some consider the UK ahead of others in maturity, what are the lessons that can be learned from the UK's experience of open banking over the last few years? Nigel, do you want to kick us off?
The UK is very brave to take a stance and be the first mover on open banking, and being first mover, you also make and something that's totally new in the industry. There's bound to be learnings from it, and I think the rest of the world can learn some of the way where it's been executed in the UK. I think one of the real learnings was trying to understand the customer, because it was very much marketed, and especially on the government side, towards consumers, where if I went to my grandmother and asked my grandmother, or 90% of the market who aren't really technical, what open banking was, they wouldn't have a clue at all. So I think one of the learnings is if you're implementing open banking in your industry, is address the real customer of it, which is the fintech industry, the accounting industry, the lending industry, all the others who can build product. And then consumers, they will get amazing experiences on the back of that. So I think that's one area that was missed. Some other areas is, I think the key thing is standards. The internet was successful in the 1990s because there was independent standards throughout the world, and I think blockchain still struggles on this because there's multiple competing standards. If you look at email, in the 1990s, there was a ton of competing email platforms from Microsoft, and Apple had its own. There's Open with SMTP and the web standards. When everybody settled on the standard, email then become ubiquitous amongst everybody out there. I think the challenge now is, because we've already got UK standards, we've got the Berlin Group standards, we've got other standards appearing. As an industry, we almost need to give ownership of what open banking protocols are, so people implement them to a standards body. I think that's a learning from it. But to have standards, you've got to have somebody who went first, and so hats off to everybody in the UK who went first.
Hetal, did you have a view from the bank's perspective?
Standards for us are critical as we look to take this into other markets. Not going through exactly the same challenges and reliving them would seem to be in everyone's interest. We have a platform that has real scale. Our UK open banking platform now has more customers using it daily than some of our small branches have in their entirety. So it makes complete sense for us to take those standards and port them into that market so that those customers can benefit quickly. And if each country were to choose to have its own slightly varied set of standards, that would slow down implementation and benefits realization for our end customers. I think it would also create greater operational and cyber risk. One of the key benefits of standards is when you see vulnerabilities, you can very quickly adapt and improve for everybody. It doesn't help us to have different standards in different markets, which then all need to be adapted to face into what are largely global vulnerabilities. I think the other big lesson is around commercialization. And here there's an inherent tension between regulation and market actors. We needed regulation to drive this. I think we've seen that in multiple markets. It's very hard to get this off the ground without a coordinating actor. This isn't mapping or media. We have a very small number of dominant firms. Banking is a very fragmented industry globally. So without somebody to bring us together, it's hard to force an ecosystem into place. On the other hand, if there isn't a commercial incentive to build and grow that ecosystem, then you don't get what you really want, which is customer-centric development. So I think, Rory, you and I have been working closely together over the last 6 months on the piece for UK finance. I think how the UK transitions from a regulatory-led process that has been very effective in creating this ecosystem, but now gives birth to a commercial ecosystem. I think that's going to be a real challenge for all of us to make happen.